When people talk about the cost of living, they usually focus on numbers, rent, food, bills. But what they don't talk about enough is how those numbers actually feel day to day. Whether life feels rushed or relaxed, whether money feels tight or manageable. Today, I want to talk about the real cost of living, not from a spreadsheet, but from everyday life. Cost of living isn't just about how much you spend, it's about how much freedom you get in return. The same amount of money can feel stressful in one place and comfortable in another. That difference usually comes down to housing, food, and daily expenses, and how much flexibility you still have after paying for the basics. Housing is usually the biggest expense anywhere in the world. But here, whether you're renting or buying, the cost can be surprisingly low compared to many Western countries. You're not automatically locked into massive monthly payments just to have a decent place to live, especially if you're willing to look outside the most expensive city centers. In major cities, rent is higher, but still reasonable by international standards. You're paying for convenience, like proximity to malls, offices, nightlife, and faster internet. Smaller apartments are common, but they're often enough if you're spending most of your time out or working remotely. City rent costs more, but it buys time and access. In the province, renting feels completely different. It's more space, quieter surroundings, and significantly lower prices. You can often get an entire house for what a small city apartment would cost. The trade-off is fewer conveniences nearby, but for many people, the slower pace and lower stress make that trade worth it. Buying property is where the cost difference becomes even more noticeable. Prices are far lower than what many foreigners are used to. While ownership rules can vary, the overall cost of land and housing is still accessible compared to global standards. For long-term living, buying can feel less like a dream and more like a realistic goal. At the end of the day, housing costs come down to lifestyle. City life costs more but saves time. Province life costs less but requires adjustment. Neither is better, they're just different. And understanding that difference is the first step to managing your cost of living instead of fighting against it. Groceries are where you really start to feel the cost of living on a daily basis. It's not a once-a-month expense like rent, it's constant. What you eat, where you shop, and whether you choose local or imported products all shape how expensive or affordable life feels over time. One of the biggest price differences comes from imported goods. Anything brought in from overseas, like certain snacks, cheeses, sauces, or brand name products, usually costs noticeably more. Local brands, on the other hand, are far cheaper and often just as good. Once you adjust your habits, grocery costs can drop fast. At first, many people try to shop the same way they did back home. That's when groceries feel expensive. But once you start buying what's locally produced and in season, prices make more sense. You're not paying for shipping, branding, or international demand, just the food itself. Shopping at local wet markets is a completely different experience. Fresh vegetables, fish, meat, and fruit are usually cheaper than in grocery stores. Prices are flexible, quality is high, and everything feels more personal. Grocery stores are convenient, but wet markets often win on price and freshness. Grocery stores and malls offer comfort, air conditioning, organized shelves, imported options, but that convenience comes at a price. You're paying extra for the experience, not just the product. Wet markets might be louder and less polished, but they're often where the real savings are. Another difference is how often people shop. Many locals buy food daily or every few days, especially fresh items. This reduces waste and keeps costs low. Weekly bulk shopping, common in other countries, isn't always necessary here and can actually lead to higher spending. Once groceries become routine, you start to see how affordable daily life can be. Small savings add up. Choosing local over imported markets over malls and fresh over packaged foods can make a noticeable difference in monthly expenses without feeling like you're sacrificing quality. Groceries aren't just about cost, they're about lifestyle. Slower shopping, fresher food, and simpler choices change how you relate to money. When food costs feel manageable, everything else in your budget starts to feel lighter. Malls are everywhere and they're comfortable, air-conditioned, clean, and familiar. But shopping in malls almost always costs more. Whether it's clothes, food, or daily items, again, prices are higher because you're paying for rent, branding, and the overall experience, not just the product. Local shops feel different. Smaller spaces, fewer choices, but much lower prices. Clothing, household items, and everyday essentials are often far cheaper outside a mall. You might not get global brands, but you get value in for daily life. That matters more than logos. Eating out follows the same pattern. Restaurants inside malls cost more, especially international chains or trendy spots. The food is consistent and familiar, but you're paying extra for location and atmosphere. Mall dining is convenient, but it's rarely the most affordable option. Step outside the malls and food becomes much cheaper. Local eateries, carinderias, and small family-run places serve filling meals at a fraction of the price. The food is simple, fresh, and satisfying. Eating out doesn't feel like a luxury. It feels like part of daily life. Because local food is affordable, eating out regularly doesn't destroy your budget. You can grab meals without planning days ahead or worrying about the bill. This changes how social life works. Meeting friends, quick meals, and spontaneous plans feel easier and less stressful. Just like shopping, eating out is about trade-offs. Malls offer comfort and predictability, but cost more. Local spots offer savings and character, but require flexibility. Once you find your favorite local places, the balance between cost and quality becomes easy. When food is affordable, it gives you freedom. Freedom to eat when you want, try new places, and enjoy life without constantly calculating the expenses. That freedom is one of the most underrated parts of a lower cost of living. When you put housing, groceries, shopping, and eating out together, the cost of living starts to make sense as a whole. It's not about finding the cheapest option for everything. It's about balance. Knowing when to spend more for convenience and when to save by going local makes everyday life feel sustainable. Housing is the foundation of everything. Whether you choose city or province, renting or buying, that decision shapes your budget and your lifestyle. Lower housing costs create breathing room. They give you options, flexibility, and the ability to enjoy life without constantly feeling behind. Malls are convenient, polished, and predictable, but expensive. Local shops and eateries are imperfect, lively, and affordable. Choosing between them isn't about right or wrong. It's about knowing what you're paying for and deciding what actually adds value to your daily life. The real cost of living isn't just what you spend, it's how often you worry. When housing is affordable, food is accessible, and daily expenses are manageable, life feels lighter. You stop counting every peso and start focusing more on time, freedom, and experiences. At the end of the day, cost of living is personal. It depends on what you value, how you live, and what kind of life you want to build. Understanding housing, food, and daily spending gives you control, and control is what turns a place into a home. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe.